Justice Subbarao, Justice Shivraj Patil, Justice Gopal Gowda, Justice Nagmohan Das, Mrs. Sushila Rao, Ms. Veena Gopal Gowda, distinguished members of the bar at the dais, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to be asked to speak about Sri Subbarao. I have known him for the last 38 years or so. He belongs to an almost extinct breed of lawyers for whom the law and the quest for justice and social change was deeply embedded to the fabric of his life. My acquaintanceship with him began in 1984 when I went to meet him for the first time in his house. But he was not there. I met his wife, Mrs. Sushila Rao, one of the most generous hosts I have ever encountered in my life. Of course, she chatted with me and did not allow me to leave without having an unexpected and very heavy tiffin. I went back to Delhi. A couple of months later, I was woken up by my father. My habit was to get up late. ನಾನು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಲೇಟಾಗೆ ಎದ್ದೇಳೋದು ಈಗಲೂ ಹಾಗೆ ಇದೆ. My father woke me up it was around 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning. I had a visitor. That was the first time I saw Mr. Subbarao. ಅವ್ರು ಎರಡು ಕೇಸ್ ತಂದು ಕೊಟ್ಟರು ನನಗೆ. ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲದೆ ಇರೋನು. ನನ್ನ ವಿಷಯ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರು, ಇವು ಚಿಕ್ಕ ಹುಡುಗ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಕೋರ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ, ನೋಡೋಣ ಅವ್ನು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ ಅಂತ. ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಭರವಸೆ ಇತ್ತು ನನ್ನ ಮೇಲೆ. He had complete faith. So I hope I have lived up to it. That is how I began my association with Mr. Subbarao. He is known for his expertise in labor law. What I learnt later and slowly was that he was extremely conversant and well versed in criminal law, property law, tenancy law, and administrative law. A closer association explained the diversity of these talents. ಬಡವರಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ವಕೀಲ್ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಸಾಬ್ರಿಗೆ ಲೇಬರ್ ಲಾ, ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಡಿಸ್ಮಿಸಲ್ ಲಾ ಎಂಥದ್ದು, ಅದರಿಂದ ದಟ್ ಮೈಟ್ ಬಿ ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಒಕೇಶನ್. ಬಟ್ ಒನ್ಸ್ ಹಿ ಅರ್ನ್ ದ ಟ್ರಸ್ಟ್, ಮಿಕ್ಕಿದ ಏನು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇತ್ತು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಅವ್ರ ಹತ್ರನೇ ಹೋಗೋರು. ಸೊ his talent was not confined to labor law. I have seen him frequently dealing with tenancy matters, property matters, and land reforms and so on. He began his practice when constitutional law was evolving. Industrial and labor laws were also new. His career is studded with several achievements, one of the most spectacular cases being the Bangalore water supply judgment, which was upheld by 7 judges of the Supreme Court. But he witnessed the growth of law, its flowering and expression. The decade between the late 1960s and the 1990s saw an intense burst and growth of concepts in public and constitutional law, various aspects of employment law, expanded interpretation of the fundamental rights, and the birth of several groundbreaking concepts like non-arbitrariness, fairness in action, and shades of liberties, including life, shelter, health, and livelihoods. Being in the thick of these developments, which he witnessed or in many cases was a party to, Mr. Rao's repertoire grew manifold. In court, he developed a distinctive, I would even say tenacious style. It was respectful, forceful, but when pushed or provoked, he could adopt a very formidable style, making opposing lawyers sit up and judges listen to him. I want to put this down as a defense mechanism which he had to use for 20 years in his early career because of the indifference and sometimes hostile reception in the courts, the labor court or the high court. That said, I must confess I would be I would dread to be in the witness box when he's cross examining in the court. The growth and development of our legal concepts and jurisprudence has been largely due to the pioneering and creative efforts of lawyers and judges in the high courts. Original ideas and arguments developed here become the subject matter of consideration later in the Supreme Court. Mr. Rao's contributions are countless. I could only dig up some sitting in Delhi. Of course, the most important and the most well known is Bangalore water supply. I saw a very early 1973 judgment called NVR Ram, which spoke about the school tribunal's power. The true school tribunal had limited power in the law to investigate on matters of dismissal, removal, and all. He argued that this power also deals with simpliciter dismissal. It was not accepted by the High Court, but later a full bench overruled that judgment, and the Supreme Court has accepted that interpretation. In H.S. Chandrasekhar, a very early 1970s judgment, I think Justice Venkatramaya wrote the judgment. His argument that dismissal without inquiry pursuant to standing orders has to be set aside because it is a failure of natural justice. This became the law not only in Karnataka but in India. Likewise, there are several other judgments in which his stamp, his argument find place. Mr. Rao has been one of my early mentors. Apart from my two seniors, Mr. K. Bhat and Vaidyanathan. His breadth of knowledge, be it in philosophy, history, literature, both in Kannada and English, and science, is formidable. He has a delightful alternative library and not his law library. His law library in his office is very big, but in his house he has a delightful alternative library containing all kinds of books. This and a lifetime of diverse experiences in law and life has led to a deep understanding of society, politics, the law. Seeing him preparing for a case and conversing with him made me realize that the poorer and more unfortunate a client, the greater is the onus on her or his lawyer, because the wealthier adversary can always hire the finest legal brains. I have been extremely fortunate to have spent hours and hours with him discussing almost everything under the sun: history, theatre, Yakshagana, contemporary events, and so on. He has been extremely fond of travel and is also a foodie. Sadly, that latter part of being a foodie, food appreciation, has now been extremely limited for him. My association with him has led to a lifelong friendship with Justice Gopal Gowda. The late Justice Rama Joyce, Justice Gopal Gowda, and Mr. Subbarao, and to a large extent even Justice Santosh Hegde, were instrumental in my becoming what I am today. What you see today is the product of the extreme nurturing by Mr. Subbarao and Mr. Gopal Gowda and my association with Mr. Rama Joyce. I cannot emphasize too much on the importance of membership and mentorship by older or experienced lawyers in sharing and passing on their skill and learning to younger lawyers. Today, as we have, as in every generation, bright and inquisitive minds. It is for us and all other senior members of the bar who have survived and have enriched ourselves or achieved great success to impart our knowledge, hand down these to the next generation. It is not good to bemoan that younger generation wants only money. If that is indeed so, the failing is ours in not living up to our duty and instilling values. Apart from professional skills, there is a larger commitment which all members of the legal world owe to society. to uphold the rule of law, serve the cause of justice, and above all, be compassionate to our fellow human beings. My association and interaction with Mr. Subbarao and the others I mentioned highlighted all these aspects. Each one of them appeared different. Certainly, all of them did not share the same views, but their commitment to the rule of law, to the cause of justice, has been tireless and unwavering. I am extremely privileged to be in the company of Justice Patil here today. His words to me on the eve of my taking over as a judge of the Delhi High Court in July 2004 are unforgettable. I don't know whether you remember, sir, and I quoted to all new judges of lower courts and high courts whom I meet. Always a model of courtesy and politeness, he had asked me to meet him in his chamber just before I took oath. He told me that, Mr. Bhatt, it is very fortunate that a good lawyer like you with good values has willing to sacrifice his earnings and become a judge. He said, we need people like you. But he went on to say something more. He said, it was a very powerful and simple advice. No doubt you are good, but don't think that you are the best. You have come there, there could be several others better than you. But having come there, do good. Keep an open mind and always learn from everyone. Always remember, the court is the last place where all else fails to a litigant. So when he approaches and asks for reliefs or any help, see if there is a way to grant it, and do not start by the inquiry with the question why the litigant was approached or the court, or find a way to dismiss the petition. I am grateful and I feel very privileged to have been asked by the organizers, and I must confess, initially I was declining because today is a working day, but my friend Justice Gopal Gowda, who has been not just a mentor, who has been like an elder brother, who has been looked out for me, he persuaded me and I came. I'm extremely grateful to have been asked, and I think I would have missed this opportunity had it not been for his insistence. I wish Mr. Subbarao many, many more healthy, happy, and productive years, and a life full of undimmed abilities to enjoy happiness. Thank you.